or multiple disabilities, deaf-blindness, and traumatic brain injury. There's no single widely accepted definition of severe and multiple disabilities. This is the most widely variety group or wide variety of group of people that we are studying thus far. It can mean that you have any combination of various disabilities that we've talked about thus far. When you have a multiple disability, it means that they are concomitant or coming together. So a person could perhaps have autism along with an intellectual disability along with blindness. I mean, it could be any combination, or maybe you have obsessive compulsive disorder, CP, and intellectual disability. The problems are so severe that the person cannot be accommodated in a special education program solely for one impairment, and so they're put in this category of multiple disabilities. Remember the information that we covered in Chapter 1 under the IDEA Law, Zero Reject and Free Appropriate Public Education. In this regard, students cannot be turned away based on the severity or the combination of disabilities that they have. I want you to know that people with significant disabilities are the most at risk for being excluded from society. These individuals, are most likely to have their rights crossed and are most likely to be at risk for living and playing and being in a segregated environment. So we really need to make a clear movement toward full inclusion in society. What are the characteristics of someone with a multiple disability? Now again, these are general characteristics that a person may have. They may not have any combination of these, but in general they might have a slower rate of learning new skills compared to other students their age. They might need more chances to learn. They may have trouble understanding skills in different conditions from which they learned. In other words, they have poor generalization, and they have trouble remembering new skills perhaps. They may also have difficulties with communication in expressing themselves or understanding others. One characteristic that they might show is a physical or motor development delay. Many times the individual may not be able to walk, or maybe feed themselves, hold up their hands, or support themselves perhaps. They may have deficits in helping themselves, basic cares such as feeding and dressing and eating and exercise. They may have trouble interacting with other people. They might have social deficits. Some might not be in touch with reality, and some may not show human emotions the way we would normally do. They might even have challenging behaviors, such as rocking, or maybe even hitting themselves, or grinding their teeth, or banging their head, maybe hitting or biting other people. So there might be some safety issues here with these challenging behaviors. Now, I have to say, it's very easy to not look at all the wonderful things that a person may have. Remember, we're a combination of many different traits. So it's very important to know that this is a person who may have warmth, who may have a tremendous sense of humor, shows persistence and determination to continue to try hard, may be sociable in their way. And the most important thing I want you to remember is that these are people that can and do learn. Remember, we all have our own combinations of physical, intellectual, and social characteristics, and it's very important for you to see through the disability to the person. Well, what causes a severe disability where multiple things are going on? In most cases, there is a brain disorder involved. Maybe the brain did not develop normally in utero, or perhaps the brain was damaged in some way, maybe in utero or perhaps after. Maybe this is a chromosomal disorder. A number of children with severe disabilities have different kinds of chromosomal abnormalities. Maybe it was a complication during pregnancy, perhaps prematurity, or some kind of infectious disease that the mother got while pregnant. Maybe it was an environmental risk. The mother used drugs while pregnant or drank excessively, was poorly nourished. She's at greater risk of having a child with severe disabilities. And also, a disability may develop later in life from a head trauma caused by perhaps a fall or abuse, assault, or maybe a bike accident or a car crash. Despite the fact that there are hundreds of possible causes, many times we simply do not know what caused these different disabilities to evolve. I'm going to shift our focus a little bit here to a very important topic of traumatic brain injury, or TBI. When IDEA was originally passed, the idea of head trauma wasn't really considered as a disability area. But when Congress amended the law in 1990, traumatic brain injury was added to the list of disability categories where children could then receive special education services. So IDEA defines traumatic brain injury is injury to the brain that causes some kind of functional disability or psychosocial disability that really affects educational performance. TBI is the most common acquired disability in childhood, and notice I underline that. That's something that happens after birth. I'd like you to look at the definition then of open head injury. An open head injury is a penetration of the skull, perhaps from a forceful blow or maybe a bullet or something like that. The most common kind of head injury, however, doesn't involve a penetration of the skull. It's what we call a closed head injury, when your head hits something with such force that the brain moves against the inside of the cranium there, and the impact there damages the nerves and axons and the fibers and the connections between different parts of the brain. You might think about a concussion or shaken baby syndrome, maybe from the blast of, I know many of our service members are coming back with TBI because of explosive devices and sound waves and shock waves hitting the brain. Now I do want to say that we're paying more attention to concussions. Repeated concussions over time can result in a cumulative cognitive deficit. And you're seeing that with players right now in sports injuries. They're saying, hey, I've had multiple hits to the head, excuse me, and they're looking, excuse me, as if they have, dementia. And so another one, it could be a contusion or swelling in the brain, a hematoma of the brain, and so forth. TBI is a very complex medical state, and recovery is long and unpredictable. We need to look at where the injury occurred, what site was it, what part of the brain was injured, how old was the person when the time of the injury occurred, and then how long has it been since the injury occurred. And I do want you to look at a very important chart in your book on 428 to look at what areas are impacted with a traumatic brain injury, because we will see physical and sensory changes such as difficulty with muscle control. You're going to see perhaps maybe headaches and sleep related problems, maybe seizure activity or poor balance. You're also going to see cognitive difficulties. Maybe here's a person who can't concentrate. Maybe they cannot organize their work. They have problems planning ahead. Maybe very sensitive to distraction. Difficulty concentrating. And perhaps you will see social or behavioral changes such as agitation, aggressiveness. Maybe, lacking insight into what's going on. They have trouble taking cues from the environment. Now, what should we teach when we work with someone that has had, severe disability? And so we want to take a look at fostering independence. So if you have your slides, you'd want to definitely underline that. We want to say, let's help this person be as independent as possible in all areas. Let's give functional daily living skills to, dressing yourself, riding the bus, purchasing something from a vending machine, using your iPad, meaningful activities that will enrich your life. I would like you to read the article on figure 12.4, My Brother Daryl, as a case for teaching functional skills. We might use communication, let's go to age appropriateness. Let's give information and activities that are age appropriate. Let's not give a coloring book to someone who's 42. Let's teach her how to crochet, or let's teach her how to do, word puzzles or something like that. We want to give the person activities that are valued by peers without disabilities. And so we can practice and reinforce these in the community. Let's give them communication. So important. Sometimes it doesn't develop naturally or easily, and we need to help with specific communication tools so that they can participate fully. Maybe we need to give an alternative communication device, maybe gestures or sign language programs at communication boards, and so forth. Literacy is also very important, as much reading as possible. Math skills, leisure and activities are very important. Let's give the opportunity to make choice, to participate in our own decision making, to decide what we want to wear, where we're going to go, how we're going to structure our day. Access to the general education curriculum as well, as much as possible, and prioritizing the IEP goals to really function upon independence and self-determination. How do we teach students with multiple disabilities? Again, these are the keys to learning that we've been talking about all semester long. Defining where we're at today, defining what we're going to learn, breaking things down into little steps, practice, active engagement, reinforcement, generalizing your skill to a variety of places, and assessing your progress to see how you're doing. Different kinds of learning strategies I would like you to look at. Maybe I can't do everything that you're asking me to do, but I can do part of a task, or I can have something adapted. If I can't make a salad for the dinner while we're all making dinner, well, maybe I could set the table, or maybe I could fold the napkins, or maybe I can toss the salad. So what can I participate when we make dinner as a family? Look at alternative behaviors. So let's be positive and proactive. If we have a problem, behavior, like what is causing that behavior, what's the meaning of it, and then what's something else we can do differently. Also working in groups, because we can learn from our peers and we can get opportunities then for socialization, and it's such a positive thing to have friends. Where should students be taught? Well, of course, we have a continuum, a range of environments, but you know what? There's a lot of benefit to the neighborhood school because we can have greater access to activities and events. We can develop relationships with other people, have buddies, traveling companions, friends, and neighbors. So again, it really promotes inclusion and friendship.